What's up, guys? Jay Martin here, or the Motivated Dropout. As you can tell by the title, I'm gonna be sharing about my first time tripping on acid or LSD. Now, to this date, I've taken acid twice, and for whatever reason, the first experiences are always the more vivid and the ones that stick, and this was definitely the case in my first experience. By the end of the video, I'm going to be telling you about what I think about acid or psychedelics in general, because I just get this idea that you guys are interested or might want to take it, or maybe you guys even have taken them before and just want to see how my experience was like. So stick around for that. And I'm going to be attaching one of the audio clips of me when I was on acid, just so you can hear how dumb I was. So just a quick heads up, I definitely do not condone acid. I don't think it's for everyone. And if you're gonna take acid, I'd advise that it's important that you make sure you're in good hands with whoever you're doing it with. And just some fruitful advice. You could take it with your friends that you're most comfortable with, but you know when some people just don't have a good handle on their darkness? Does that make sense? Well, those people are probably the type of people you don't want to take it with, if that makes any sense. No disrespect to people that have shit going on or that have shit to deal with, but it's just like once you're on it, once you're on acid, it's just there's no seatbelt once you're on it, dude. You're just going and there's no backpedaling from there. So just for some context, it all started out last year after I just turned 19 and I was driving out with a few friends and I got a tab from a friend of mine that had a plug for the stuff. And I remember it being at some shady alleyway outside of my college, and this was on a weekend or something. Super sketchy, just in plain sight in an alleyway. And it was my first time meeting the guy, and I called him as I got to the location, and I knew it was him because we were both on the phone and we did the exchange as we shook hands. Yeah, super suspicious, right? No, because it was our first time taking psychedelics with our friends, we thought it would be a good idea and it would just be fun to take it as a group. Prior to this, we were just a bunch of your average stoners. Anyway, fast forward to the night when we planned to take the acid. I was just at a friend's house. We realized we couldn't trip on the acid together as a group, and it was only me and one of my buddies. And let's just call him Steve for the sake of the video, right? So, by this time, it was right past 9 in the evening, and we were still debating whether or not we should even take the acid because we thought it was already too late by then. But after a joint or two, we looked at each other and just went like, why not? Like we have it right there just waiting for us ready to go. Let's just drop some acid. So as I said, we were about to drop the tab of acid, already pretty high at this point, and I didn't know about Steve, okay? But before I knew I was gonna take it, I did my research, alright? And I was probably more prepared mentally than I should have been. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I hate to be that guy, but I was always overly pragmatic on my approach to things that are foreign to me. And I wasn't like scared or anything, but I would always want it to go how I envision it in my head, if that makes sense to you. Anyways, so I was there, undoubtedly overthinking myself, acting as if I wasn't, right? And there was Steve, going like, yeah, let's do it. Taking it blindly without knowing what to expect. And I don't even think he knew what acid was before this. I was like, just his cadence and his chill ass personality, it was almost hilarious how funny this guy was, to be honest. I feel like we all know a guy like this, though. Let me know down in the comments if you know a guy like Steve. It's just funny, man. What a trooper. But I don't know, that was just how I saw things at the beginning. By the way, the whole trip was just us chilling at my friend Steve's room because his family was pretty strict and they were all in the house. And his room was pretty large, so everything we needed was there. You know, there was a toilet, some food, plenty of water, so we were all set. That was pretty much our approach we had before we decided to drop on the acid. Now let's forward 30 minutes in after we took the acid, around 10 something that night. By this time, we were both just chilling, having casual conversations and listening to music. This was where things sort of start to take an effect. Some people experience it later, but for me, it started around that 30-minute mark. And I felt like at that stage where, you think it's coming, but you aren't quite sure yet. But it wasn't until about 45 minutes to an hour in where things started to seriously change. I started feeling just a bit nauseous and unsure in my gut, like even almost groggy for the most part, just because it felt kind of weird. So at that point, we decided to call a bunch of friends to see if they were free and they were willing to spot us. And if you guys don't know what spotting is, it's essentially just having someone over that could just watch you, someone that's sober. But soon after, that uneasy feeling starts fading away, and then boom, everything just feels fucking great. It was like pure bliss. And a little bit after an hour in, music started sounding a whole lot better. Lights appeared a lot more vibrant, and everything sort of had a aliveness to it. And it was just nothing but good vibes. It was also weird because everything that was emitting light sort of had like a tail to it, and my peripherals or my side vision was just acting up. And you could easily tell that time was starting to slow down and stuff. At that point, I guess it's pretty safe to say that we were tripping. And a couple minutes go by, and one of our friends that we hit up earlier that evening was able to make it and came through. And I guess we were lucky because of out of everybody that we knew and hit up that evening, she happened to had experience with acid, so it made us feel a lot more safer. So now it was the three of us. Steve and I were high as a kite, and we had a friend to spot us, which was great, and we just chilled and smoked up a bit. So everything to that point was just a blast. And now at this point, it was probably approaching midnight now, almost 2 hours in, and the acid was just getting stronger and stronger every single minute, and it literally felt like shit's about to hit the fan. I don't think I could possibly explain what visual and audio distortions look or sound like, but I was straight hallucinating at its point. And I just remembered laughing my face off because of the company I was in and the vibe that was going on in the room, just listening to music and realizing certain words and songs that you never paid attention to, just being like, oh, what? That was what they mean? You know? You guys ever had that moment before? But yeah, it was just nothing I've ever experienced. And I know people like to do it outdoors or something, but we decided to take it at night, and I wouldn't know if I could comprehend being outdoors, tripping in the woods and shit. Besides, taking acid for the first time late at night in public probably wouldn't be the wisest decision to make. Anyway, so I could still grasp what was going on physiologically, and I could still have full control of myself until I made the decision to go to the toilet and take a piss, alright? And it was probably one of the most challenging tasks ever. But little did I know that I wasn't even scratching the surface yet at this point. Because when I looked in the mirror, I literally was scared of my own reflection. I didn't know what was going on, okay? I just felt like some horror movie jump scare was literally about to happen, so I avoided looking at the mirror, washed my hands, and I probably just stood there after I was done for around a minute, doing absolutely nothing. And after I got out of the restroom and went back to go see my friends, which at that point was about 2.5 hours in on the acid or something. And I just remember saying, okay, now I'm tripping. And as I entered the room, it felt like I went into another dimension because I just forgot how cold it was from the AC. And that was when I knew I was crossing the tipping point from the high stage to the stage where you're actually tripping. And if you know, then you know. And it just felt like you weren't high anymore. You were elevated, and it's a different thing. And when you're at that state of mind, it's like you're operating in a higher state of consciousness, and everything was just 10x. It was crazy. I remember I wanted to blast this one song on the TV, and I couldn't wrap my head around the title, and I was just sitting there, just clueless with the remote and staring at it. My mind was just trying to process what I was gonna do. And Steve was just there, like, hey, give me the remote. I said, sure. And he plays that exact same song that I wanted to listen to. And it was just so trippy. I remember thinking, like, holy shit. It was like telepathy. And we were just laughing about it after. And after things sort of calmed down and we were just quiet, I was pretty much laying down in bed and my thoughts were just consuming me at this point. And I was just having these random topics that was going on. It was so intense. I started questioning everything. I looked over to my friend that was on her phone and I was just thinking about like the dichotomy of how amazing it is being able to reach out just to about anyone in the world so easily nowadays. But also almost judging and being critical about how bad it is that social media has just consumed our generation. And obviously, there was just so much more I could possibly share, but that would have made for a longer video. And I was just in this crazy rabbit hole, and I just had these spiral thoughts that never ended. And if there's any advice I could give you guys out there, it's that acid can be really beneficial to you in a way that it's extremely life changing and it could facilitate growth. But anyways, each second just felt like a minute, and each minute felt like an hour, and I was just completely lost in the concept of time. But it was to the point where the trip felt like it was almost forever and I just wanted it to stop. But I learned to surrender to the feeling. And when you learn to surrender to the feeling, you experience this feeling of oneness. And all the thoughts that I had was just brought to the surface. And I could really appreciate things for what they were and what they are. And I just realized how there's certain things that I felt that the acid was trying to tell me. And there was honestly so much I learned, and it was really therapeutic. Here's what I think about acid or psychedelics in general. I think we have a limited idea of what's possible in terms of what reality is. And when you do psychedelic drugs, you experience this thing you can't experience naturally, right? You have these wild visualizations and you feel like your surroundings are just communicating with you. And sure, you can say you're hallucinating and your mind's just playing tricks on you and all these things, but when you do acid, mushrooms, or other psychedelics, you do get a perspective that others can't achieve that's never tried them. You realize that life is just a reaction to our environment's actions. There's just so much more clarity because you're thinking deeply into first principles and you're not functioning like how you normally do when you're just sober. Overall, the best feeling you can get is being connected with nature. And that's why most people decide to take these things. And that's why you hear most people say psychedelics are incredibly beneficial to them. So, do I think you should do acid? Probably not. I know I've talked a lot of good in it, but really, I don't glorify the use of psychedelics. Unless you know you want to, then, well, no one's stopping you. I definitely know a lot of people that's experienced bad trips before, but I'm just lucky I've never had one. But if you have taken acid, feel free to drop down your stories or experiences down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and connect to you guys. And if you want to hear more stories of the first time I try things, leave a like and subscribe with post notifications on. I do plan on post regularly, but for now, peace. It's telling me a message already, man. It's saying, hey, you are the devil. Devil speak.